Hello, everyone, and welcome into a new episode of Prospect Pipeline here on the Flyers Broadcast Network. I'm Brian Smith along with Bill Meltzer as we get ready for the NHL Draft. It's coming up. This is draft week, and all the work that the scouts have put in here for the last year is going to come to fruition over the next few days. Bit of an interesting situation this year with a decentralized draft, a little bit of an NFL version. The league is going to be stationed in Los Angeles with Commissioner Gary Bettman, and a lot of the top picks will be there. We're expecting the top, 90 to 100 guys to be invited out to LA. So maybe the first 3 rounds or so, and then I guess the rest of them are just going to be at home kind of watching like in the NFL. So we'll see how it goes. It's going to be an interesting scenario, but we're going to have a whole lot of coverage for you here, of course, on draft week about the draft, in which the Flyers have about 700 picks, it seems. They've got a lot of picks to deal with.
One fewer,
though, with yesterday's news as we tape this on Tuesday, with Trevor Zegras coming to the Philadelphia Flyers, something I feel like has been inevitable. I feel like from the minute the Flyers got Jamie Drysdale, it was like at some point Trevor Zegras has got to come with them, and I mentioned it yesterday on Twitter. I alluded to it. It's time to start a new podcast, I think, with those guys, because they're going to be fun to watch, not only on the ice but off.
No, for sure. Zegras, very personable guy. Certainly the super skilled. I mean, there's no question mark about that. He's in terms of pure skill, one of the most skilled guys you'll find around the NHL. He's coming off of back-to-back years. He's had injury issues. He had back in December, he tore meniscus in one of his knees, so he had to have surgery. I think he missed 24 games. Did come back. He was fine the rest of the season. Last year was a little bit of a trade-off for him because the knock on him has always been his play away from the puck, off the puck, his defensive awareness. He split time between center and wing, but last year he improved a lot of those details in his game. Greg Cronin, the former coach at Anaheim, is not an easy to please guy, kind of similar to John Tortorella in a lot of ways. And he called him the most improved player on the team from an all-around standpoint. The numbers didn't necessarily show it. He had the back-to-back years with 23 goals, 60-plus points, but was not a complete player. He took steps in that direction this past year, which will be important, particularly if he plays center full time. Which he could play center, he could play wing. Daniel Briere mentioned yesterday that it'd be great if he could play center. I think that's the preference, but that'll ultimately be Talk's decision.
He strikes me as one of those guys that has had a lot of pressure on him from the time he was drafted for whatever reason, and perhaps it's because his rookie year was so good, and also he is a personality off the ice, and so he drew a little more attention to himself. Danny Briere talked about it when he took over, that the Flyers want to find guys that need the change of scenery and have it happen here, as opposed to the other way around, which was the case for the back half of the 2010s, it felt like. So hopefully it's going to be that situation there, and he's going to come here and kind of be rejuvenated a little bit in his career.
It's a great opportunity for him. He's a restricted free agent next July, so it's a prove it year for him. If he has a big year, there's a multi-year extension waiting for him.
Yeah.
So everything is lined up for him. Hopefully, he can stay healthy this year. Thankfully, the knee injury is probably not an issue. He missed the 24 games, but he finished the year healthy. So everything's on the table for him, and there's really no reason why he can't get back to that form of being, 20, 25 goals, 60, 65 points. Certainly has all the ability in the world. I think the biggest thing with him is that that'll make a certain number of highlight reel plays. We all remember the play with Sonny Milano where he flipped the puck over, where he faked like he was doing Michigan, flipped the puck over the net, and Milano batted it in the net. That's fantastic to have the highlight reel plays, but he needs to make the smarter plays and show the awareness and just know where and when you can or can't take a risk. But all the potential is there, and And before I guess we move on to what went the other way, I would say too that I think it helps that he's very close with Drysdale, and he also knows Cam York very well from the U.S. national team program, so he'll fit right in.
He's coming into a team that's had that away from the puck play drilled into them for the last 3 years. And even though the coaching staff that did it is no longer here, the foundation's been laid. So hopefully it's something that he'll fit right into here. Maybe not on opening night, but maybe after a month or so. It's it's one of those trades. I'm not usually trades are kind of indifferent sometimes about trades. I'm pretty stoked about this one.
Yeah.
Only remote disappointment is losing Ryan Poehling because, and again, they're very different players. What Poehling brings to the Flyers lineup will be, it's very different from what Trevor Zegras will bring. So it's one of those deals I think you make to improve your overall roster. But just a salt of the earth guy, just one of the most nicest guys you're going to meet in the game, and so it's disappointing to lose him from that perspective too, from what he brings to a group, and just people like you and me. The way he treats everybody is second to none.
No, I would thank Ryan for everything he did for us guys. He was always accessible, always easy to deal with. Was emerging quietly as part of the leadership group. After the Scott Lawton trade, the Flyers need some other guys to step up. I think Noah Cates started to, and I know Pales was one of those guys that was doing that. We won't get to see in Philly if he can take what he did late in the season, because after the trade with Morgan Frost and Joel Farabee, there was more playing time, an opportunity for Ryan to move up in the lineup, and he really took advantage of it. He might have been one of the Flyers' 2 or 3 best players over the final about 6 weeks of the season, and was scoring because he had an opportunity to actually, play in situations he wasn't playing in before, and puck started going in the net for him, and you could see his confidence really grew in that stretch. Playing on the line with Peltier and with he was with Tippett, so it's a line. Two guys, all 3 guys could really skate. 2 guys who brought some size to the line. So I would have liked to have seen, that line have an opportunity to stay together, see what they get from him. But it's a trade you have to make. Because Ryan and hopefully Ryan is the higher end of a bottom 6, or more of a top 9. That's the distinction in there, right? Top 9 versus bottom 6. When I think of bottom 6, I think of, well, he's a 4th line guy who maybe could bump up a line, whereas top 9 is a guy who could, as teams, how based on performance, might be a guy you might even play on the second line for a period of time or whatever, or his home base might be that 3rd line. I think Ryan might be a better player than he maybe played in, where his position in the lineup. But again, but he'll never light things up. Sure. Even though he was a 1st-round pick in the way Zegras can. So it's the kind of trade, just from a skill point of view, you had to make it.
And hopefully in a place like Anaheim, he'll be able to play further up the lineup as well. I know I did see some sort of coverage in the news about this trade that Anaheim's in a win now mandate, which I hope for them that it's not the case. I don't think that they're going to live up to that. But
and he's unrestricted in the year too.
The Flyers aren't in win now mode. Anaheim certainly is not.
No, I wouldn't think they are.
But again, it's I think a change of scenery type of thing.
For sure
for him. So as you mentioned, 2 of the picks, 2 picks went back. One of the ones from this year, a 2nd rounder, the one the Flyers, I guess, got Columbus from Provorov, was it? I can't think of any other deal that would have come over.
It was the 45th pick.
A Columbus pick goes back, and then a 4th rounder next year will go to Anaheim as well. So Danny Briere already investing some of that draft capital, but we'll get to the point here, the draft itself, and of course the Flyers right now with 3 first-round picks.
Still 3 in the second,
still 3 in the second. And going to be busy here in the first couple of rounds. Again, everybody right now is dialing in on the 6th pick, because that's really all you can do. It's so hard to tell where this thing is going to go after maybe the first 10 or 12 picks, and even up to then, it's a little bit shaky. So focusing in on 6 right now, again, some of the work is going to be done for the Flyers here on this pick, because they're kind of going to have their choice of who's left when they get to this spot. And the only variable would be if they're going to try to trade up to get somebody they really like. We're not seeing any vibes like that right now, but again, it's going to be interesting to see who's there when it's their turn.
Yeah, the day Rick Taka did his introductory press conference, we did breakout sessions afterwards, and I specifically asked Keith Jones, just a rough what if you look at the draft class, there's not. It's actually a relatively deep draft, but it's not a superstar talent kind of draft. Obviously, and Brent Flair said, we all know that we have an organizational need at center. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of centers towards the top of this draft. Now, things could always change. If there's a winger you really like, Porter Martone being the most obvious name. There's a winger you like better than the centers. Do you think this might be a first line winger, or it might be more of a second line center? Maybe that changes your calculus on it. But the odds most likely favor, just based on this draft, the Flyers drafting a center or a guy who has or can play center.
So, again, just kind of looking at the overall situation, and the guys that are, projected to be some of the top picks, you can probably pretty much assume that Matthew Schaefer's not going to be there. Somebody's going to grab him. Michael Meese is not going to be there. Somebody's going to grab him. From there on, it's a little bit up in the air. Chicago, the Islanders, San Jose, Chicago, they're going to kind of go with the flow. Then you get to Utah, which is still the former Arizona Coyotes. Yeah. We have no idea what they're going to do.
They go off the board frequently, right?
And then you've got Nashville in there, which, again, they've gone off the board before as well.
So, and they love to draft defensemen.
Yeah, so you don't know where it's going to go. Yeah. But again, let's look at it saying, okay, Schaefer's not going to be there. Meese is not going to be there. Everybody else might be there.
Might be, yeah.
Who in your mind is the best fit in a Flyers jersey? Just for fun.
Well, best fit is a guy I don't think is going to be there. Yeah. I don't think Caleb Denway is going to be there. Okay. So I think he's going to be off the board. But
Elliot's brother, right?
There you go. Yeah, he's his younger brother, and actually not drafting because of the family ties, and not drafting because his dad and Lappy go all the way back to I think minor hockey together in Montreal. So they're like lifelong friends, but that has nothing to do with it. Very complete.
Lappy's got a lot of lifelong friends.
He has. Lappy has a million friends. Yeah. But no. So I think that as you play it out, there's Frundell, the Swedish player, another 200-foot guy, very good shot. That might be a guy if he slips to 6. A lot of projections have him already off the board. Mm-hmm. That might be a guy you go for. I'm kind of honing in on 3 guys, possibly being there at 6 for the Flyers. One of them is Higgins, super skilled, but another smallish center. I think the preference is to get a little more size if they can. As many things as Jet Luchenko brings to the table as an all-around player, he's on the smaller side of average size. So if your futures are 2 smaller centers, I don't know how. I mean, ultimately, I think you draft for talent and let the pieces fall where they may. But he's one of the possibilities. A second possibility is Jake O'Brien, who is not related to Jay O'Brien. We're talking about family relations. There is no relation there. But Jake O'Brien, in terms of being a pure playmaker, is right up there with Higgins, maybe even better than Higgins as a playmaking center. Great distributor, actually has a good shot, doesn't use it very much. He's much taller. He's 6'2", whereas Higgins is listed around 5'11". With O'Brien, he has to fill out. So I think he needs a good 20 pounds of muscle on him. And it should eventually get there. Sure. He should probably play at about 190, 192 pounds, maybe 195 at the top of it. But it's going to take a little while to get there. So he's not going to be a guy who's going to jump right into an NHL lineup even likely a year from now. More likely he'll play 2 more years of junior hockey and then be ready for the pros. But as a long-term guy, 3 to 5 years, he's right up there with those other guys. So that's another guy I think the Flyers might pick. And the third guy is Brady Martin. Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds. Guy rose with a bullet in the second half of the season. If you look at the projections mid-season, he was late first round. But every year there are guys who rise and guys who drop. He rose just about as far as anybody. And there's some speculation that he might go in the top 4 even this year. Everybody knows what his game is. Very physical. So he competes. He's always involved. 2-way guy. Lots of grit. Good touch around the net. He's not a natural goal scorer necessarily, but he gets but he gets everything he possibly can out of his talent. And he never stops on the play. So takes a second or a third effort. The questions are, with the skills that he brings, is he going to be a Mike Richards, because he's been compared to Mike Richards, or is he going to be more like Scott Lawton, who's a really good Swiss Army knife kind of player, move him up and down your lineup, but really his home base is really kind of your third and fourth line. Can play wing or play center a lot like Lawtz can too. So, that's kind of the spectrum you're looking at. Or if you want to use guys who are not Flyers players, is he more like Bo Horvat? Once again, gets everything possible out of his talent, really good impact player. Or is he more like a Rafi Torres type, who was drafted high in the first round in his draft year, but ended up being a fourth line kind of a guy. That's really the two polar ends of it. And might fit somewhere in the middle. But character guy, maybe a future captain or alternate captain. So, I think those are the 3 guys the Flyers are looking at, with the X factor being if Martone slips to number 6, that's a guy who could potentially be a first line caliber winger, and maybe if the draft plays out the way you go, we were looking at centers, but here's this guy we think could be a first line guy. We'll grab him. Yeah. So that's so there's always X factor teams going off the board, and maybe somebody you have higher ends up slipping to among the centers.
Yeah.
Too.
And just to touch on the size thing real quick, because I've seen some folks talking about the size with Higgins and all that, and last year the Flyers they passed on Zeke Bouillon because he's small, and so they're going to do the same thing. I think size at forward is a lot different than size at defense, though. You can't have half of your defensemen be smaller players, or more than half, but at forward, you can add some size on the wing with a guy like
smaller
Martone,
center,
something like that. Yeah. So what's interesting to me, I guess, is and we'll have to see how this plays out. I don't think he's going to say anything now, but how does acquiring Trevor Zegras change that approach towards centers? Because now you've got him he's 6 foot. You've got Jet Luchenko coming at some point at 5'11". Yeah. What are you going to? Does that affect anything? And I feel like what Danny's given us so far, that he's less concerned about it than some people are. Maybe it's because he was a smaller player
who had a lot of success in the league. At a center.
So he's been there. I don't know. We'll see where it goes. But well, obviously number 6 will be the first one that happens, assuming there's no other movement. Then they get to the bottom of that first round, where you've got again a lot of things going to happen there in terms of who's still there, who's available. Every team you see these lists online, and all these pundits have their lists. Every team has their own rankings. Yeah. And I feel like the Flyers had Jet Luchenko ranked even higher than where they picked him last year, which is part of the reason they were able to trade down and get him. Yeah. So that's a factor too. Who they get there at the back half of the round is, again, going to have a lot to do with where they've got guys ranked internally. Yeah. And, again, if anything else pops up deal-wise, that they can, turn a pick like that into somebody that's going to help, more going to help sooner than one of these draft picks will.
and yeah, and ways you can any number of ways you can take that, but in terms of I wouldn't be shocked, although there's probably some defensemen that like right around that 22 range. I think that they might end up taking another center because there are guys who are now, we were just talking about the size thing with centers, but there are a couple of guys who are quality players. Ben Kindle is one, Kolresny's one, Braden Coots is another. All
we can't have somebody named Coots on this.
Another Coots, right? Coots and Coots.
That's way too confusing.
Yeah. Well, we had a million Bradens at one point.
We did. Yes.
Those are all really high skilled guys.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, there are ways they could take, and then one of the X factors in this year's draft too is that this might be one of those you see a goalie go in the first round too. While the Flyers do have two goalie prospects in the system that they like quite a bit, I use this on Flyers Daily. I put this in blogs too. Said the goalie drafting reminds me of an old joke by late comedian Mitch Hedberg. He was talking about how unpractical it is to cook a baked potato in a conventional oven, saying that sometimes I'm not in the mood for one, but I might just throw one in anyway because by the time it's done, who knows?
Exactly.
Same thing with goalies.
A couple days later, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
who knows?
Well,
it takes so long to develop.
It came up this playoff run because all of a sudden you're hearing all these people say, "Oh, they should have kept Anthony Stolarz."
Yeah.
Well, what people don't realize is that when the Flyers traded Anthony Stolarz, their two NHL goalies were Carter Hart and Anthony Stolarz.
Yeah.
They were both rookies, I think. I think Stoli may not have been rookie status.
I think Stoli had enough games.
He did not have many games. You can't go into an NHL season like that. Yeah. So you got to have a veteran in there, and so that's why they at the time,
injuries too.
Yeah, and at the time the pick, so your pick at the time was Carter Hart or Anthony Stolarz. And obviously they made the deal they needed to make, and again, you don't know for sure if he's going to be. If he's going to turn into anything or not. Fortunately for Stoli again, one of the great guys in the game.
Oh, for sure.
Glad to see that he did, but I don't think it's any fault of the Flyers they didn't turn here.
No.
So you get these goalies in, and that's the thing about goaltending position is you only use one at a time. So you get these guys in, and okay, maybe they become your starting goalie, maybe they become your backup goalie, maybe they become a piece that you end up trading to get something you need elsewhere.
No, exactly, and you could take it back a little bit further than that, and this is back when teams still pick goalies in the first round. Nowadays, it's you go an entire draft without a goalie picked in the first round, or maybe one. But take it back to when goalies were quite often picked in the first round. Flyers picked Brian Boucher, first round, 1995. Then 97, they didn't have a first round pick, but their first pick in the second round, so their first pick of that draft was a goalie, Jean-Marc Pelletier. Then the year after that, they take Maxime Ouellet, first round. They took I believe it was in the same draft, they took Anton Niedermaki in the sixth round. Well, Bush ended up being an NHL goalie and a starter for a portion of his career. But who ended up being the second best goalie was Niedermaki,
right,
in the sixth round.
Yeah.
So you had a first round guy and you had a high second round guy, and they didn't quite pan out. With goalies, you can never have too many of them in your system. They just need a place to play.
Yeah.
And you have to be patient.
Yeah.
So I'm a believer in always taking a goalie at some point in a draft, and it doesn't really reflect on what else you have in the system too. So it might shake out with the sheer number of picks the Flyers have, 3 in the first, 3 in the second, that you would see a goalie somewhere in there.
So again, we're just going to kind of see what happens. Really, again, this is this isn't one of those drafts, especially at the top, where it's not easy to predict.
Yeah,
we'll see where it goes. Again, the Flyers have plenty of picks, so we're going to have a lot to talk about with who all else is coming in here. Again, the draft is this Friday and Saturday. It'll be 7:00 on Friday and noon local here on Sunday.
I believe
Saturday,
so,
I believe.
With the time.
Yeah. So I will be in Los Angeles. We'll be bringing you some stuff from out there. Everybody else is going to be Bill will be in Atlantic City. We'll have all the coverage for you with that. And right after the draft, you're going to turn around and have development camp at Voorhees, so you'll have a chance to see some of these guys in the first week of July there. So stay tuned for that information. We do have breaking news here on the podcast. The preseason schedule is out.
There we go.
So by the time you're watching this, you'll be able to check out the Flyers preseason schedule. The biggest thing I can do is thank Barry Hanrahan for the fact that there are no back-to-backs in the preseason. This year. No back-to-backs. Every other day, pretty much. There's a couple extra days off in there at one point, but back-to-back preseason games are tough.
Those are brutal, and especially because one is always just a beeline up.
Yeah,
and
then travel in the preseason is day of. For the players in the back-to-back, usually it's a whole different group, so it doesn't matter. But people like us, they have to go to all of them. We don't care much for it. It's New York, Montreal, Washington, and Boston again this year with one game against the Devils also. And the 3 home games here at Wells Fargo Center, or Xfinity Mobile Arena by then, will be September 27th, October 2nd, and October 4th. But you can see the entire schedule on Flyers social channels, PhiladelphiaFlyers.com. And it's sneaking up on us, isn't it? Another hockey season.
Just about here. Yeah, it feels like it.
Even though really last season just ended last night.
Yeah, right.
Congratulations to the Abbotsford Canucks, who are the Calder Cup champions. Defeated the Charlotte Checkers yesterday in 6 games. And it was it's a long season these days, as it goes all the way to June 23rd before the entire schedule is done. But we're ready to move on now. So we'll start it all with the draft this weekend. Any final thoughts?
Well,
hold on.
We'll with so many assets, I wouldn't be shocked if the Flyers don't end up making all 6 picks, but we'll see.
We shall see. Hopefully for Rick Bronwell's sake and the equipment staff, they'll have 15 draft picks show up next week. But we'll see how it goes. But for Bill Meltzer, I'm Brian Smith. Thanks for joining us here on this episode of Prospect Pipeline, and we'll hope to see you out at development camp in July. Hope you're having a great summer and continue to do so, and we'll talk to you soon.